What's up, Skongers? I'm so glad I waited 7 years for a game just so I can 100% it in just under a week. 10 out of 10 would skip lectures again. Anyhow, while we wait another 7 years for DLC and a third spin-off, I think it would be fun to rate the release patch version of all of Silksong's bosses from a casual's perspective. This rating will go in order of difficulty based on my opinion, and I will rate by no particular rubric, just what I thought about the character design, enjoyability, and the run back. To make things fair, I will reveal my nail upgrade level, tools, and maneuverability options during the rating. You guys will be able to see what crest I used, and my number of masks and spools, but other than that I tried to be as transparent as possible regarding how much cheesing I did. And oh yeah, one last thing. This rating will not have the Summon Savior boss exclusive to Silksong because I suck at the game. For obvious reasons this video will have major spoilers, you have been warned. Without any further ado, please enjoy. To kick off the list, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, the easiest boss is the very first one. Moss Mommy solely exists to let you internalize the fact that you're really playing as Hornet. This boss is no joke, a true weeder for the casual gamer. Are you skilled enough to hit a stationary object? Because this boss graces you with a full minute of standing still right after doing an attack. This boss is the first of many to summon minions. Luckily as the first boss, the green Goombas may as well not even be there. If you are a Hollow Knight veteran you probably take pride in being able to wail on it due to how easy it is. I mean, challenging. Next, we have Pale Stag, which is this game's equivalent of No Eyes except this time there's basically zero challenge. No spikes along the edges, and no tricky projectiles that move in sinusoidal patterns and threaten large portions of the arena. Instead, the projectiles give you a year's notice that it's coming to get you just to take another whole year to hit you. 9 times out of 10 you only take the hit to face tank on purpose so you can get to the boss faster and end your misery sooner because this boss loves to teleport away every time you get within 12 feet of its personal bubble. It doesn't help that the arena is both vertically and horizontally awkward, even if it's thematically consistent. I used the cogflies with the polyp pouch because these guys are heat-seeking missiles. Garbanzo Bean and the Tsar are awesome companions for Hornet's journey, helping out in various fights throughout Phylum, but they don't change their tactics for their one-on-one spar with Hornet. Found just outside the Songclave by going through the east side of Whispering Vaults, you can encounter them fighting some enemies before you subsequently challenge them to a duel in Act 2. Yes, this boss is only doable in Act 2, which is pretty annoying for the completionists. For this fight, I want you to observe that I start the fight on 2 masks but by the end, I'm basically on full, that's how easy they are. I wish Team Cherry could have done more to make their fight more interesting like they did for Chakra, more on that later. Alright, I'll have to go quick for the next one. Well, I'll just let the clip play for itself. Zengo is a glorified DPS Czech, which I only knew before fighting because I was collaborating with a friend to 100% the game. Here's Zengo's last moments. Kinda sad. Skull Tyrant was my first boss after getting out of the Citadel, and by getting out, I mean escaping since I essentially got lost in the Citadel for around half of Act 2. In case you forgot that Silksong was a Metroidvania like I did, going back to the early game portions to fight new bosses like this is very Metroid. Very fun. Anyways, don't let my bad gameplay deceive you. Skull Tyrant is very easy, even without cheesing him with tools, although it is very fun to do so. I don't know why I never bothered to pogo him to gain extra height when he was charging through, but it's whatever. He may be fast, but he is helpless when he's locked into a move. This fight is the textbook example of swing and run because his 2 or 3 attacks cannot hurt you if you aren't greedy. Of course, I can only say this now looking back, but you gotta trust me and not the awful gameplay. What's better than 1 Moss Mommy? 2 Moss Mommies. Yeah, it's hard to convey sarcasm through TTS. I think I'm going to get some criticism for counting this as a separate boss, but this is far from the only rematch fight in the game. I'm counting each boss encounter as its own boss, even if the boss is reused in this context and essentially nothing changes about the individual. That being said, I'm not a fan of when the gimmick is just the same boss but now there's 2 of them. Like, what am I supposed to comment on? They are still as slow as the first time, and I suppose there could be twice as many green Goombas that could show up, however 2 times 0 is still 0. The only redeeming quality about this boss encounter is its tool drop. the weave light, which is really useful for platforming segments and spamming silk skills. Number 40, Skull Tyrant, but again, I remember the moment vividly. I was so caught off guard. It was in that moment I realized Silksong was peak. After you kill Skull Tyrant the first time, the next time you decide to sit on a bench in Bone Bottom, it decides to enact revenge through terrorism. You think I'm joking, but the definition low-key applies here. Silksong teaches the player about the consequences of their own actions and the omnipresent danger of international terrorism. I applaud Team Cherry for going out of their way to script surprise events like this, because it makes Farloom feel dynamic and alive. That's about all the praise I have to say, because it's basically the same boss again, just different environment. I do find it amusing that in order to make attacks not overlap, they made any rocks that fall from above seemingly instantaneously appear from the top of the screen rather than start from the true ceiling of the room. I do think this fight is harder than the predecessor only because I managed to die due to the shock. For most players, this boss is likely the first true duo boss fight. You would think having to split your attention between two late Act 1 bosses would be difficult. However, much like all other bosses that find themselves this low on the list, they suck more than the junk mobs that you can encounter before them. They basically only have two attacks, one you've seen already thanks to the aforementioned trash mobs, and the other has a year of anticipation. By this point in the Act 1, most players are so traumatized by the Widow fight that by the time they get here, they will have developed the prerequisite Silksong hand-eye coordination needed to treat these guys as a pushover. Oh, and if you really think duo bosses are somehow difficult, you don't even have to kill both of them to continue. After killing the first one, the other just disappears. This was really disappointing because I was expecting a harder second phase with the enraged, faster conchfly. Instead, Team Cherry decided to make it two separate boss encounters. You probably wouldn't expect to see an Act 3 boss this low, but Nileth refuses to exploit the player's discomfort nearly as much as it should. Partway through the boss, the game revokes your floor privileges and demands you pogo the boss to avoid death. Sounds problematic, right? It would be problematic should Nileth realize it has an attack that literally lights up everything in a certain radius. However, Nileth never does, giving the player ample time to assess their situation and dodge its less threatening moves. Nileth can also swap walls throughout the fight, messing up your flow. Though, it's nothing a little needle harpoon can't handle. By the way, in my footage, you can see me struggling a lot more than I should have because I forgot the harpoon was a move. Still, I had no difficulty taking the Heart of the Woods. Honestly, I wish I did Nileth before Carmelita. As the second boss in the game, Belbeast doesn't play around. This double damage stuff is real, and when you only have 5 health, it becomes particularly scary to play around the Belbeast. I believe what gives players so much trouble is that the Belbeast can hit you for 2 masks and knock you into a bell that hasn't despawned yet for another 2 masks, a deadly combo that will leave you asking,
what happened? Oh, I don't know what happened. I have no clue what happened. I didn't see him hit me, yet a bell hit me, and then I died instantly.
Once you realize the bells bounce only once and that you can hit bells away from you, the boss becomes easier to manage. The best part of the fight is the reward, one that will follow you for the rest of your journey, a Silk Heart. Haha JKXD, I mean fast travel silly. Next, we have Toxicuri's sibling, Part 1. There are a lot of things to say about Lace considering you get to fight her 3 whole times over the course of the game, so we'll get there when we get there. This first entree is an awesome introduction to NPC-sized fights. I will admit, I'm quite biased. I love NPC-sized fights. They are quick and force players to really learn their movesets if you want to effectively hit them because they evade so fast. Also, the concept of bosses parrying attacks will always keep players on their toes. Lace is epic in the same way Mantis Lords is epic. Even at this stage where she isn't difficult yet, she is still exciting to overcome. Every single time I'm reminded of this boss's existence, I think of the kind of electricity-themed bosses we could have received. Imagine instead of a harmless abomination of pink acne sores, we got a cool electric dragonfly-looking creature sort of like Vikavolt from Pokemon. Instead, we get Squid Game Whack-A-Mole where the challenge is to not stand where the lightning will be in a couple seconds. I swear I've seen this boss as a Mario Party minigame for decades now. Admittedly, I kept having this problem during the fight where I kept rushing back to the location where the lightning just struck because I keep believing, surely lightning won't strike the same place twice. While I'm right, the attacks are deceptively active, causing me to lose more masks than I need to. This is the first duo tag team boss designed to make the player feel skilled, and it does so masterfully. This dance has 4 parts: slow, fast, offbeats, and Shakespearean tragedy. And each part is the same, giving the player enough time to learn their patterns. Team Cherry really took the mechanistic theme and ran with it. This boss isn't challenging, I just hate every downward facing attack. I swear that move has such a deceptively large area of effect. And when you are a giddy player who just wants to swing at the boss, you quickly lose the rhythm and get dismantled. My only criticism, oh and by the way, hearing this may forever change your perception about the boss fight, is that the dancers don't have a shared health pool, which means you can just focus one of these clankers down to speedrun the fight. Let me tell you my struggles. I came to Coral Tower for the first of the 3 hearts because it was the only one I knew the location of. When I go in, I'm floored. Anyone who sees that entrance would be too. In my head I'm thinking this is game of the year. A whole area in a sub-area? Yeah right, in my dreams. And in my dreams indeed. I'm gonna make you acknowledge a sad reality. Look up the reveal trailer for Silksong. Does something seem familiar? Look at what we could have had. Look what they took from us.
They stole it from me, Carmine! They took it! That was today! Today!
Sorry for my outburst. Anyways, don't we love it when a beautiful area is replaced with an enemy gauntlet build up to a boss fight? Cold take, as someone who sucks at enemy rooms, it definitely sags a little of the enjoyment of the boss. I can already see the comments yelling at me that there's literally a shortcut you can unlock after the 3rd room or so. Of course, I know that. I'm not stupid. Even still, those 3 rooms of enemies are so tedious and challenging, it soils a lot of the magic and atmosphere. You wanna know the worst part? Even after I unlocked the shortcut for the first time, I didn't even use it because the final room and boss were so not challenging. The Krusty Krab is legit a stationary object, and you have so much time to move out of the way of his moves. All in all, this is the hardest boss to judge. I know it wasn't enjoyable, but I love everything about the design and environment. All I know for sure is this boss had no right being this easy. I refuse to believe it. Here is a truly forgettable fight. Unless we discover some fascinating lore secrets kinda like Traitor Lord, my favorite boss from Hollow Knight, I see no reason for the boss to remain irrelevant. This boss is annoying. Just throws obstacles all over the room and then vanishes and reappears on the other side to do the exact same thing all over again. No wonder he is an outcast. Basically another pale stag. So as you can probably guess, I just cockfly-cheese this mofo just because I don't want to go through that again. I wish there were cooler fights from the Ant tribe. Number 31 Trobio and number 30 Dark Trobio. I see no reason to not just group these 2 boss fights together because let's be honest, they are literally the same fight. I can immediately tell that Trobio was designed by Team Cherry to be a fan favorite. I mean, just look at how flamboyant he is. How can you hate this poor theater kid? I find Dark Trobio particularly amusing due to his dramatic breakdown over the state of world affairs because it's relatable. Sorry if that just got pretty real. I don't really know what changed between the 2 fights, as I managed to first try both encounters, and the fights were all around good due to being NPC sized. I also love the item drop. The claw mirrors, which is such a busted blue tool. And then there was the 4th chorus, named after the fact that this is the 4th boss in the game. Supple design, Team Cherry. I really love the foreshadowing the game does as you make your way towards the seamstress for the Drifter's cloak. You see this gloomy robot in the background just lingering, and when you exit it's immediately there to intercept you. What ensues is an epic battle. A contact damageless boss is always a treat considering how many things in this game that will brush upon your pinky toe for 2 masks. That still doesn't make it easy. Sort of like Bell Beast, you're still too weak at this stage of the game that you can basically get one tapped by anything that hits you into lava. After a while of swinging against this robot, updrafts will appear, and if you have any brain cells you should immediately recognize that the game is telling you something. That something is an insta-kill boulder that you can drop on the 4th chorus to win faster than if you were to just keep swinging. In fact, you don't even need to fight him at all. There are no invisible walls on this boss arena. If you're skilled enough you can just escape with a well-timed dash, jump, bind, and glide. Neat little detail. The Bell Eater is a bad omen kind of boss. It's the type of boss that makes you realize the world as you know it is gone. Where is Ira? This prolapsed anus loves spewing his clotted hemorrhages at you in two distinct flavors, bomb and fountain spray. They shit, they maybe swing their centipede arms, and then they maybe make the ground a death trap. That's it. I hate this disgusting thing and I have no idea what it has to do with being a bell-eater other than the fact that it's terrorizing my poor little baby. I've seen many streamers struggle on this boss, which is why I put it a little higher than I would like. To give some tips on how to deal with this bastard, I'd say just face tank everything, because you shouldn't even be entering Act 3 with anything less than 8 masks anyways. You should get back enough silk from just swinging wildly to basically restore your health entirely. After it dies, you get the greatest gift, Baby Ira we must protect. Oh, and also a mechanic to teleport back to the last Bellway station you used, which is pretty cool I guess. I totally expected this boss to have one of those dreaded enemy gauntlets before you encounter the boss, so I was considering running back to a bench to equip the magma bell, but I ultimately decided that I would only do this if I died. However, I never did, and instead, minions only appeared during the boss fight itself. The minions are the basic enemies from throughout Deep Docks, and they love to fly close to lava so that you can one-tap them. The Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble duo fight itself is unlike any of the examples we've seen to this point. They are far less coordinated and not duplicates of one another. To compensate for the fact that there are two of them, Team Cherry conveniently forgot to give them more moves. Seriously, these guys only have 2 moves each. I can never remember who is who, but the ground guy either swings his staff or throws it as a boomerang, leaving him very vulnerable. And the flying one just throws his spear, which you can break to completely negate the attack. Even though basically everything will hit for 2 masks without the magma bell, you can just face tank everything by taking the contact damage for 1 and keep swinging. Now I see why other bosses make contact damage do too. I think I was stronger than I needed to be for this section of the game, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. This one is mildly annoying. Before you even get the privilege of laying your eyes upon this abomination, you need to go through her enemy gauntlet. I'm just whining because I don't like these furry, glue-spitting fucks, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Some of the creatures that appear also explode on death, adding pressure to the fight. All in all, this is a really good fight in terms of challenge. Looking back, I think tools like the Delver's drill or cogwork wheel would be perfect for whenever she goes for the arena-wide lunge, because pogoing off of her is suboptimal. By the way, can we talk about that lunge? Why is the range so long? I won't lie, that move definitely caught me off guard the first time. Gruzmother fans will find themselves right at home with this boss though, because it feels like a better version of that fight from Hollow Knight. Remember how I said I wish that they made the second Conchfly an enraged version of the first encounter? I'm going to regret wishing for that. This fight addresses all the problems I had with the first fight, which I suppose is a good thing, but it also means the boss is harder now. A lot of things are faster, especially the punishing windows. The moment you get an opportunity to approach it, this bitch input reads you and stands just out of the way, just like the savage beast fly. And when he finally drills into a wall, you can only get, like, 1 hit in max. It took me an embarrassing amount of time for me to realize that the minions he summons mid-fight are not actual minions, but another slew of obstacles to worry about while you navigate your way towards the boss, only for it to turn 90 degrees sideways and ram itself into you. I adopted a strategy where I used the pompillos to clear out the trash mobs while I can dish out multiple hits to the Conchfly. For anyone who beat this boss before 9/11, congratulations, you're a true sconger. If you're unaware of what I mean, patch 1.0.28497 is the figurative 9/11 for the die-hard fans of Silksong, as it was a nerf in the relative difficulty of the game. One of the bosses hit by the nerf was Sister Splinter. While I don't want to act like a snobby gatekeeper, I don't see why this boss in particular needs to be nerfed, because there are so many others that commit war crimes. Longpin was my best friend during this fight, as it has piercing and can hit the flying enemies pretty well. My only issue is that after staggering her I keep thinking that I can get free upswings in, but unfortunately gravity exists. While it is a neat touch that she can fall on her ass, it comes at the cost of 2 masks and wasting the stagger opportunity to heal. Now I can see why contact damage doing 2 seems a little absurd. Just a little. Now here's the other one that got nerfed. Did you know? You can skip this boss in Act 1. Yeah, I bet you're sick of hearing that too. I was actually in that 5% of gamers that actually skipped the boss on my first playthrough. And yet, despite being more equipped, Morwing still kicked my ass. Still, I don't think this boss in particular needed to be nerfed either though. I think knowing that I actually skipped him the first time around really played into my cocky approach for this boss. I'd tell myself that I just gotta go in, swing a few times and it will be over. Over for me, it turns out. I should take things more seriously. And one more thing, just like Sister Splinter, this boss is also affected by gravity during staggers, which is once again really annoying considering that other flying bosses don't fall. It's whatever now. I'm just glad the fight is over. The Unraveled, spelled with 2 L's, is supposed to be a very creepy boss fight considering the environment and onslaught of zombified looking bugs that you go against in the pre-boss enemy gauntlet. But when the curtains unveil, turns out your opponent has the build of a semi-truck. I might be stupid, but literally what is that design? It's literally a box with a helmet. I think you're supposed to never be near this boss whenever it emerges because its attacks come out fast. The silk spears don't overlap with other moves, so it's not too hard to deal with either. Once you gain the mental competency to realize this fact, the boss becomes trivial as you can just wait and then punish much like the other bosses. However, doing so will add years to your life because this mofo is tanky. I suggest using tax because this boss is stuck to the ground anyways. The Court of Craws was a good idea. Let me explain. The Craw Summons was such an ingenious idea to restore some functionality to an area of the game you're only expected to go through once, and that area is technically optional if you decided to go the Phantom route anyways. You're gonna hear me discuss this later, but I hate flying enemies, especially the craws that flap because their vertical displacement feels so erratic and uncatchable. Believe it or not, despite all my complaining, I didn't struggle with that one enemy room in Craw Lake that I heard everyone else struggle on. Listen, I was so locked in on day 1 it wasn't even funny. Anyways, it was great to return to this place in Act 3 only to realize that everything is infested with void, and a new challenger was awaiting. The caveat is that the Crawfather comes with an enemy gauntlet, which depending on how skilled you are, is or isn't a problem. You know me, I just used cogflies because I ain't dealing with that shit. During the fight I thought the boss would spend more time airborne, but in actuality he is a sitting duck. The only time he takes to the skies are when he is about to dive bomb or release a bunch of chains. The fight is only hard if you have millions of craws harassing you at every opportunity, which is why I suggested cheesing with tools. Once you do, you see the difficulty of this boss for how it really is. Some of you may be surprised to find what is essentially a reskinned enemy design all the way up here. After all, it's just a boss of an enemy you should have dealt with before, right? To some yes, but for me I hate this guy. I even hate the regular enemy version of him too. Remember my woes about Coral Tower earlier? Yeah, this guy was sort of the main perpetrator. Now I get to tell you why. This enemy, and consequently the boss as well, can block attacks. What do you mean these guys can apply defensive sword skills 101? Why can't you just be normal and parry like the rest of them? Every time I get blocked, I just stand there dumbfounded like, was I supposed to do something else? And, where's my punish opportunity? Blocking is a fundamental wrench in my plans I'm not trained for. Anyways, I forced myself to learn the fight and died a lot for doing so. Rashankar. Like Carbonza Bean, Shakra is another optional boss that is entirely missable. If you've seen her fight alongside Hornet in enemy rooms and thought to yourself that her one-on-one boss battle would be similar, you would be wrong. During her boss fight, she uses this dashing area of effect move that she rarely uses in enemy rooms. Thanks for hardly using your nuke against common mobs, jackass. And then, in true Shakra fashion, she zips around all over the place just like those creatures in Verdanya and throws an annoying ass ring at you. You can't catch up to her. You aren't supposed to. You just have to pray you don't die before she does. What if we just made the cogwork dancers? But again, that was the thought process behind this boss fight. I suppose there's some lore implications here, but we're not at the stage where we know what any of it means yet. This time, instead of targeting one gay robot to win, you can only target one gay robot at all, and that gay robot is the Green Prince himself. It gains a new move, but it's still as avoidable as ever. You just have to travel in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction. IDK, what else to say, you just gotta use your brain for this one. Verdanya could have been so much more. Actually, this boss is easy. Okay? Then why is it this high up? Well, it was only easy after having to grind it out so many times for the fucking Twisted Dick achievement. Before that, it felt like a worthy challenger to Absolute Radiance. Looking back now, it's very clear it was just a baby Absolute Radiance. I can't remember my feelings fighting the boss for the first time after I have been forced to learn her patterns so thoroughly, so instead, I'll vent my frustrations over the Dick Twister challenge. Imagine fighting the final boss of any game without heals, tools, passives, or literally anything that would give you any edge over an unprepared folk. On top of that, your maneuverability and attacks feel nerfed as you aren't used to the way the crest plays. Welcome to Team Cherry's worst torture design yet. I'm not even kidding, I wouldn't even attempt this if you are a casual like me. Just wait until there's some sort of God Home update so you can practice. Finally, we have made it to Toxic Yuri's Sibling, Part 2. It's been a while, so let's talk about it. The main difference between last fight and this one is that Lace gains an AoE attack on her airborne dive bomb, and most importantly, she is all around faster, which makes the fight far more engaging. One of my personal struggles fighting Lace, even during the first fight, is that her grounded triple slash attack is hard to notice and has very few frames of anticipation. It is accompanied by an audio cue, but Hornet voice acting tends to obfuscate Lace's. Once again, a fun and epic fight, and I love the set piece for this one in particular. Secret boss alert. Real quick show of hands, who knew about the secret of the mist? I didn't get to the mist until Act 2, and I got there through Bile Water as opposed to Sinner's Road, and I really wish I did because damn, that last judge fight is hard. I only managed to first try the boss because I was 10 times stronger than I had to be. You can look at my gameplay, I deserved to lose with how shitty I was playing. I think I would have gotten more enjoyment had I come across this boss when I was weaker. Otherwise I believe the boss was solid, but then again, I think many NPC-sized fights are solid. This boss makes you feel stupid. When it goes for those horizontal sweeps, it does a pretty damn good job at tracking your vertical position. I'll jump preemptively to avoid impending doom, only to realize this fuck is delaying its attack to collide headfirst into me on my way down. Did I mention the minion spawns? Never have road obstructions been so effective. Their horizontal flyers are no problem, but those gigantic bucks that light up everything in a radius around them? You're so afraid of taking 2 masks from the spawns you'll gleefully run straight into the boss to take 2 masks anyways. And what's your price for all of this? Just the one crest in desperate need of a buff. I think why the boss feels so unsatisfying though is not the difficulty of during the stage of the game in which you encounter it though, nor is it the run back. It's just how thematically inappropriate this place belongs in Hunter's March. Fireboy is the most unique boss in the game in terms of presentation, mechanics, and design. Instead of a bug monster, we get an inanimate scarecrow that summons heat-seeking missiles. It is 1 part platforming challenge, 1 part survival, and 1 part fighting. Can you guess which of these parts is the least important? Most of the challenge derives from the fact that this boss won't give you any silk, which makes lore sense, but it also means no silk skills and most importantly, no heals. That's rough because something in this arena will find its way to hurt you and call you mean names. God forbid you find yourself in the corners of the boss room with nowhere to escape. If mask recovery is an issue, I highly suggest the Plasmium file with the Magma Bell. Second Sentinel is a premonition of how AI will just turn on us in a few years. It doesn't take 2 seconds inside the Citadel for this tin-skinned cocksucker to activate Baymax Destroy mode. Like, why man? We could have had a cool robot sidekick, but no. Instead of bosses routinely embarrassing me, I am embarrassed this boss, but only after switching my crest to the Architect crest. The needle swing benefits from always being in range to deal more damage, and at this stage of the game I was strong enough to face tank nearly everything. You'll also notice that I barely fit underneath that X-shaped charge attack, something I learned throughout my attempts. I feel bad that's how I treated this boss, but considering how claustrophobic this arena is, I don't feel guilty. Of the many automata-themed bosses, this is my least favorite, unsurprisingly. Pinstress could have been a cool fight if not for one thing. Flying. I didn't mention during the Crawfather, but I hate those fucking birds in Craw Lake.
That fucking bird that I hate.
That fucking bird that I hate. That fucking bird that I hate.
That fucking bird that I hate.
What?
But what's the difference between the Court of Craw's enemy Gauntlet and the Pinstress, you may ask? At least the enemy Craws don't have infinite health. The Pinstress is a fucking boss mob. Are you telling me I have to chip at a cuckoo bird that's allergic to the idea of landing while it throws pins at me from cruising altitude? I hope you enjoy your spot in hell, right next to all those birds from Craw Lake. Only fightable boss in Mount Fae, by the way. Could have been the Fae bird, but instead we got the bitch bird. Is this boss really top 10 hardest? For me, honestly yeah. I just don't like the void. Void enemies in Silksong have the most regrettable gimmick. Regrettable in the sense that it will make you regret entering Act 3. Enemies afflicted with this black illness have damn near triple the health of an enemy, a cast of new moves that only serve to prolong the duration of the fight as they have fuck you amounts of coverage, always do 2 masks of damage, and worst of all, getting hit will sap your silk, taking away precious healing or silk skill resources, drawing out the fight further or keep you closer to death. Dark Garbanzo, like his Void ilk, has this particular move where they fire bullets at you with deadly accuracy. For whatever fucking reason, Lost Garbanzo's fight in particular has his bullets fan out like a shotgun. This wouldn't be a problem if not for the fact the arena, if we can even call it that, wasn't so short. This makes it hard to get past him to avoid attacks. The most demeaning thing is that every time you die, Zaza will be waiting for you right at the bench to show you the way. This run back was annoying for all the wrong reasons. Pause. After all that rambling about Void, I wanna declare that from what I've seen, this is where I would place the Summon Savior boss in terms of difficulty. I think it's cool that it gets its own questline unique to Silksong, but the design leaves a lot to be desired as it's virtually indistinguishable from the regular Void masses you encounter throughout Act 3 aside from the fact that it's flying. Additionally, the no silk recovery looks miserable. What's the worst thing in Silksong? I'll give you a hint. What's the worst area in Silksong? Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now what makes bile water so awful? If you said anything but those goddamn fatherless maggots, you need to get your brain checked. Holy hell, is maggot swarm so spammed in bile water it's basically unplayable. But this isn't bile water, this is an Act 2 boss in Sinner's Road. I hear you. But what if I told you, the gimmick of this boss is fucking maggots? Can't you just equip the Wreath of Purity? Yeah, no shit, that's why I have it equipped on my winning attempt. But the amount of time I spent on this on Act 2 just to get maggoted would give a happy upper-class suburban nuclear family depression. So, I came in Act 3, and what do I find? The Void can affect regular bosses too. It's like the maggot gimmick never left because you still never have silk to do anything. Fuck you. This is the boss that had many community members complaining over the difficulty of the game in the early stages of the game. Or at least I think, but I can tell you this was the start of my Joker arc. As if the first fight wasn't bad enough, the rematch takes you to the 4th chorus and now everything is worse. That harmless vertical slam now opens holes in the arena. Those blade guys are gone, and a new cancer has stepped in. Meet the exploding rock thrower. Half the time you don't even get hit by the boss directly or the minions, you get hit after landing because the projectiles stick to the ground and explode. How else am I supposed to dodge 2 dipshits and a boss on a tiny floor that's disappearing? It's impossible to avoid anything because there's barely any room to begin with. That layered with overlapping attacks from the boss and minions flying so fucking far away for you to hit them makes this the first truly unfair feeling boss. What a wicked awesome boss fight. I mean, when's the last time you saw a boss mimic your healing mechanic? Not even Grandmother Silk does that. And that second phase is so fun and chaotic. Fun fact, I came really close to beating First Sinner on my first try in Act 2 when I was far weaker, but after how much time I spent whittling down its health I figured I would come back to it later. By the time I remembered to come back and 100% the game I was already too strong. Still, I can see this boss being a fan favorite. I think the only thing holding this fight back is how similar some of the moves are to the Widow. A lot of my instinct from that boss kicked in for the First Sinner. Here's another community least favorite. Diarrhea is a very fair boss. Sure, everything may do 2 masks, but also every setback and failure feels like a result of human error rather than bullshit. Except for maybe that unreactable spin move, man, that thing pisses me off. Anyways, it's completely acceptable for this boss to be a roadblock for players. But this disastrous run back only serves to ruin the boss experience. Remember, this was pre-patch Sandcarver. Running back wouldn't even guarantee that you had full health, let alone a full bar of silk. I was using tools and Magma Bell, and I still died so many times on this boss. I essentially became a master of running back to this location. That I had no trouble on the Courier's Rasher, which I did in Act 3. Banger fight alert. Have you ever got your ass whooped so hard you decided to lock in and really learn their attack patterns so you would never lose again? That was my experience with Seth. I once again tried everything to even cheese him and would still lose. At the end of the day, the strategy that would carry me to victory was raw fundies. He is another boss with fast unreactable moves, but certainly not impossible. Being in the air won't help much as he has a helicopter move with massive coverage. He also has the dive bomb nuke move that Chakra has. He's a master of threatening any area of the stage even when he's still in the recoil of a different move. Worst of all, after you beat him, he gets the last laugh. He goes all the way to Fleetopia where you must now beat all of his records. What a petty bitch, what, you can't take one loss. Hardest boss in Act 1 hands down. The most insane part is that Wither is only the 6th, in most cases, 7th, boss I encountered. So somehow, in the early sections, where there are so few upgrades one can make, the game expects us to be ready for a brutally fast boss. That's not even accounting for the speed Widow has in Phase 2. Maybe I was just sleep deprived after playing all the way until Bellheart on day 1 of release, but my brain could not keep up with what she was doing. The bells she throws are fast, the way she scrambles is fast. I think the only moment of reprieve you will get is when she turns the ground into a death trap. The worst part is the bells, by the way. As if the Bell Beast bells felt like RNG, this takes the cake for chaotic. Bells bounce once, but since they come at crazy angles with ridiculous speed, you can be sniped from the other side of the room by a bell that wasn't directly aimed at you. Toxicuri Sibling, the finale. What a fitting true final boss for this game. During the making of this video, some lore explanation videos on the Sister of the Void ending has come out, and now I just feel sad. Turns out our true enemy was not our Toxicuri siblings, but the Void all along. Who would have thunk it? When Void infested, Lace becomes a super boss. Now every move on top of being blazing quick can summon Void tendrils. There is nowhere in the arena that feels safe despite being one of the largest arenas in the game. The threat that Lost Lace can apply at any moment simply by teleporting and picking a near unreactable move is terrifying. The rush of beating this boss is unpalpable and can only be rivaled by the rush of beating this boss again for the Pantheon of Farloom 6 years from now. Growl has the worst run back, enemy arena, and epithet in the entire game. Growl the Great, more like Growl the Diddler. If somehow you didn't have to deal with this boss yet, bless your soul. There is so much discourse surrounding the area and the boss, I don't know what else to add, it's been shared already. I have my own ideas about how this boss can be balanced, but obviously no one would want to hear that, so I'm just gonna whine about everything I don't like. First of all, maggots. You already know how much I hate these things. You won't be able to heal if you decided it was worth falling into the muck water, which you will do instinctively because of the exploding spitballs. It doesn't help that the staggers are basically non-existent. We need to harvest silk. I'm not even asking for damage. You can scale the health bar all you like, just please give me silk. Second of all, minions. Did Team Cherry not playtest their own boss? Why did he need ads? Those dart spitters are snipers and need to be nerfed to be less sudden. Lastly, the run back. I'll say it. This run back is blatant bad design. You have to trudge through maggots and dart monkeys that pop out of nowhere just so you can start the room on half health and no silk. This boss is the epitome of unfair. I spent so much time on this boss I didn't hold back on the cheese. Cogflies and pompillos with the polyp pouch. I learned in my many attempts that the pompillos are perfect for the sucking. You can explode in his mouth. Carmeli 2 is my hardest boss in the game. I tried every single crest on her, tried different silk skills and tools, until my final attempt where I used the tried and true strategy of tax and cogflies to DPS down to phase 2 as soon as possible. I was genuinely pulling my hair over this one. All her anticipation sprites look the exact same, and attacks happen almost immediately. If you were planning on approaching her, one of 3 things would happen. 1. You get hit by some unreactable horse shit. 2. She leaps 15 feet into the air doing 2 masks to you because it's not regular contact damage. Or 3. She blocks your hit. I hate blocking. Just make her parry so that punishes are more consistent. Trying to swing when you don't know what the boss may do next is Russian roulette. This is the first boss where my strategy of face tanking and praying just didn't work. She was too tanky regardless of how much damage I was dishing out, and would always position her hurt box so I would get hit again. I did put an effort into trying to learn her moves, but I just couldn't discern anything. This is the one boss I need revenge on, which is why I'm waiting on a God Home DLC. Well? Despite all my complaining, Silksong was an incredible game and worth the wait. And those were some of my thoughts. Was I wrong? Please feel free to scream at me in the comments, and while you're down there, hit that like button and subscribe. See you guys never.